Phone Booth Fighting is alive, the podcast that has been going on for, do you realize, Frank, we're going to be celebrating our 5th anniversary coming up?
You brought that up a couple months ago about going on 5 years, and it actually kind of shocked me. I didn't realize we've been doing it this long.
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to get you for a 5th anniversary. I don't know if that's like wood or plastic or something. You ever seen those charts where it shows you like everybody knows silver and gold, I think, for 25 and 50, but there's a bunch of like lesser materials that you get for the ramp up to it. You don't happen to know what 5 is, do you?
No, not at all.
All right, we're gonna have to do a little investigating for that. Well, happy early anniversary! How time flies. This has been an incredibly worthwhile 5-year effort, I will say, Frank. Obviously, you and I have both become independently wealthy off of doing this, so there's financial motive. But just that aside, the camaraderie, the intellectual discourse that we have enjoyed amongst ourselves for 5 years, I think has been a very worthwhile effort. I hope you agree.
Yeah, I do. I like our conversations. Plus, I always think about the fact that if something ever would have happened to me, I like the stuff that some of my ideas and concepts and thoughts. My children can always go back and archive and listen to.
It is a great, it's very true. It's very true. A lot of people probably don't think about that. I remember, I don't even know why this sticks with me, but there was an old Michael Keaton movie. I can't even remember the name of it. It's just one of those movies I saw and it was all right. And I kind of promptly forgot about, except for the fact that this scene just stayed with me. It was like he was terminally ill and he had a little kid and he was videotaping things like for his kid for later. And this was before, obviously people had camcorders, but it wasn't a camera phone. It wasn't like,
right.
Well, any old idiot could do that. Like this was, oh, well, that's a creative idea to do because he had to have the big clunky camcorder and all that kind of stuff. But he's like showing his kid how to shave.
Oh, you know what? I vaguely remember a Michael Keaton movie about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called, but anyway, that's kind of the first time I saw that idea.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying. Well, hopefully, I tell you what, if anything does happen to you prematurely, I will do this, Frank. I can't afford scholarships for all the mere children, but what I will do is I gift them complimentary Patreon memberships.
So
they will be able to see all of the content that not only our free version, but also our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/phone booth fighting, which, by the way, Frank, is going to become more important than ever. We have to start really taking care of this thing because you don't even know about this. We're embroiled in a little bit of controversy with Amazon and our Amazon ban. Ready for this? Okay.
Yeah, what's up?
So for several years, you and I got a piece of advice from Adam Carolla, the Podfather, the widely recognized as kind of the forefather and pioneer of modern day successful podcasting. And when we had him on a couple of years back, I said, what's one piece of advice you would give us for the podcast? And he said, put up that Amazon banner. He said, we did it, and we didn't do it at first because some people told me it was a bad idea, and then we did it, and we made money off of it. And I was like, why didn't we do this sooner? So you and I did it, and it's been helpful. It's in fact, it's still there on the front of phoneboothfighting.com. It's an affiliate program where people could click through the Amazon banner and then do their shopping on Amazon, and a little, 2%, 3% here and there of the purchase comes back to benefit the show. Anybody can basically sign up for that program on Amazon, I believe. So we've been doing it and having it and all that kind of thing. Well, we would talk about it on the podcast. It's obviously on the front of phoneboothfighting.com. And there's also a link to it on our Phone Booth Fighting Facebook page, right? And we're not, in case anybody missed my sarcasm earlier when I said we had gotten independently wealthy off of doing this podcast, that's a pure definition of irony, by the way. Irony gets misused a lot, but if you ever need a good example of irony, just go back to this edition of the podcast and play that opening bit, and you'll know what it is. But so I got a notification from Amazon telling us that we have the right to appeal it, but they're suspending that account because we're violating their user terms. So I look into the user terms, and apparently they don't want you to tell anybody about it. So you can have it, but they don't want you to promote it.
All right.
It's very confusing to me too. I don't know. I don't understand that. I don't understand how, especially if you're in the retail business, I thought the whole point of it was to drive traffic to Amazon's site by having it's kind of like we become de facto sales reps, kind of, because we're like, hey, go to the. I have no idea. So anyway, for the time being, I don't believe we're going to benefit from the Amazon banner. I'm trying to straighten it out with Amazon, but all the more reason to consider.
They don't want us to talk about the fact that we get a percentage? Is that what it is, maybe? You say you click on the banner, support the show, but don't get the details of how it works?
No, that would even make more sense. I mean, at least that would make a little more sense. But from what I understand, reading, and of course, it's typical terms of use. It's this long, you know what I mean?
Extremely vague, I'm sure.
Yeah, but from what I can tell, it's that there's any kind of advertising for it whatsoever. Like it's not supposed to be on the Facebook page. You're not supposed to, another one was you're not supposed to actively drive people toward it. I don't know. And apparently we've been the subject of an investigation. That's the other thing too, is there's been an investigator assigned to the case who did a deep dive into our Facebook page and whatnot. So, yeah. So, I mean, barring some sort of presidential pardon, and I know he gives them out like candy, but I think I'm on the wrong side of that. So I don't know that we're going to get any relief there. I just have to I'm still going to try to straighten it out with Amazon, because it's been a nice little way to, keep the podcast afloat. But I say all this because if you are a supporter of the show, or you want to be a supporter of the show, then maybe now more than ever, the Patreon page, patreon.com/phone booth fighting, which means, Frank, you and I have to keep up our end of that, keep putting up some Patreon only content over there on that page. So we'll be doing that. Probably some watch alongs. The more I think about it, I like the idea of us doing watch alongs. And, like, for example, there's a big fight this weekend, and we don't have to do it live, but, maybe we queue up that main event between Derek Lewis and Alexei Oleinik, and you stream it on your device and I'll stream it on mine, and we'll tell everybody to hit play at the same time, and we'll just talk our way through it. That might be a fun thing to do.
Yeah. I'll see what my signal is like when I get up to Washington tomorrow.
Well, right now it's good. All right. So what's with this getting up to Washington and you're somewhere else right now? Update everybody on where in the world is Frank Mir. What's going on here?
That's kind of funny. I used to actually be kind of a statement, but nowadays not so much. But
yeah.
Right now I'm in actually Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we're having the XFN tonight. The fights, the heavyweight Grand Prix tournament for kickboxing will be being done tonight, and you can watch it on UFC Fight Pass. It's actually kind of cool because I think we're the first actual event that is having fans. We're only at 38% occupancy, so that way they can keep everybody kind of distanced away from each other as far as the arena goes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a live event that'll actually have legitimately people cheering and in the crowd.
So Tulsa, and you've had a long-standing relationship with this promotion. This is a regional promotion that you probably lost track of how many times you worked for them at this point, right?
Yeah, no, I do every time they have a show now, and as of right now, we're about once every other month. Mm-hmm. But there is talk actually of doing it once a month, and so that'd be awesome. I love to commentate and be a part of the sport in every capacity. So yeah, the XFN Extreme Fight Nights, Dale Cook's show out here in Tulsa, and most of the time we host them here at the River Spirit Casino. And so if anybody's around the area and wants to come see a fight, this one's been sold out for a while because of the limited seating. Mm-hmm. But if anybody's interested in listening to my commentate and watch the fights, obviously as long as you have a UFC Fight Pass, you can be a part of the show.
Is getting on Fight Pass a new thing? Because I don't think those were always available to be streamed on Fight Pass, if I recall.
No, this is probably, I think, a third or fourth show on Fight Pass.
Okay. Very good. Excellent. All right. Well, everybody can tune into that. And a heavyweight Grand Prix. What are the rules? I assume it varies state to state, but every once in a while, tournament talk comes up. If somebody wants to do a tournament, what are the limitations on that? A one-night tournament, like how many fights, and in it, like, don't lengths of rounds and things like that come into play? Do you know?
Yeah, as long as you make it a stand-up type of tournament, it's fairly easy to pull off, because in kickboxing and boxing, the amount of rounds someone's allowed to do in a single night, you can accomplish that goal. It's nothing to have a 9-round or, a 12-round fight. So having a guy fight 3 times in a night, 3 rounds each potentially, is not hard to pull off. He's under the 9. MMA, it's near impossible to do a regular MMA event in the U.S. now that's going to be a tournament in the same night, because again, you can't fight. I think it's like 5 rounds in a night is the max. And so unless you have guys fight 1 round, their first opening in the tournament in the bracket, and maybe a second, though I've seen guys try to adjust the length of the rounds so they can try to get that to work under. Just right now, the rule system just does not promote it to where we can have a standard MMA fight occur in a tournament style bracket.
Yeah. Interesting. Any have we seen anybody come out of XFN yet that we would know that maybe eventually went to Bellator or UFC?
They went to Jacoby, who just did well at the Contender Series back in the UFC. He was out here.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
He was a tournament winner.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little UFC. Something coming out of your division this weekend, a fight I'm excited about. Tomorrow night, as we tape, the Black Beast, Derek Lewis, is going to take on the master of the elusive, mysterious Ezekiel choke, Alexei Oleinik. I'm interested in this fight. Every once in a while, it's like a lot of times interest builds because somebody's one fight away from a title match or something like that. And then sometimes it just, for whatever reason, the mixing and the matchup and the things to consider and the stylistic differences and all that just makes for intrigue. And I don't know if it's that way for you, but it's that way for me with this fight. Derek Lewis, quite a while back became the guy, the never say die guy that, whether he's winning or losing, he looks absolutely exhausted to me. And then just when you think he's going to be finished, he comes back and wins a fight. Alexei Oleinik always intrigues me with the threat of the Ezekiel choke or the scarf hold or scarf choke or these things. And then the other thing too is reckless abandon style. I mean, Alexei Oleinik is a guy who will take some risks to try to get inside and grapple with you. And boy, that's a recipe for disaster with Derek Lewis. But that being said, if Oleinik gets Lewis to the ground, that could be a lot of trouble for Derek Lewis. So I don't know. I like a fight where there's a lot of questions like that for me. You got any thoughts on these two matching up?
Yeah, actually, I think it's going to be a super interesting fight because I am slightly favoring Oleinik in the matchup. I just feel that I feel that Derek hits hard and he's well rounded as far as decent skill set. But I feel like his output's not that high, and I think that you kind of need a high output with Oleinik, and to to keep out of danger with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you let him settle in on you, he's going to eventually get the takedown. Oleinik was able to take down Mark Hunt, who's also very difficult to take down and hits hard. So, as far as, even though Hunt's a much more technical striker, as far as similarities of guys that, hey, big, strong hips that don't want to go down to the ground and want to try to land a monster shot to knock your head off. I I see similarities there, and I see what happened in that fight. So that's why I think that Carr is going to, Derek Carr. We're watching too much football lately.
Then I'll ask the question: who is Derek?
He's our quarterback for the Raiders.
Oh, okay.
Lewis
Mm-hmm.
is, I think he's going to have to try to knock his head off, because anytime they grapple, if Lewis gets tired, and I've seen Lewis get mounted and get positions, and then people just don't put him away. But, in the heavyweight division, you tend to get away with grappling sloppy because a lot of guys are not very good at submissions. Whereas in the other weight classes, if you get into bad position too often, you get, choked out or armbarred or whatnot. Oleinik, obviously has a very high level of savvy for hunting submissions. And so, if Derek goes to rest and he's being mounted, him just sitting there getting beat up for a little while he recovers his endurance, I just don't see that being a very good strategy or even, a route to victory for him. I think that Oleinik will sink in the submission, and, the guy's difficult to, to get off of you.
Yeah. Any physical limitations that you can see with the size of Lewis as far as Oleinik getting those submissions? I don't know the answer to that question, but I mean, just in terms of, we talked about how weird that ability to do the Ezekiel choke, no gi, whether, it's from mount or he's getting mounted or any of that kind of thing. Are there any, when you look at the genetic size and makeup of Derek Lewis, any particular challenges there?
Some submissions it's harder to do on a bigger guy. If you're a really good triangle, the triangle is sometimes not the easiest move to pull off on a guy who's big, thick shoulders and has the ability to lift you up off the mat. But a lot of the chokes, the size of your neck really doesn't help. In fact, if anything, which is never going to be a situation we're going to see in the MMA fight. The only time I've ever had a hard time, strapping on a choke on anybody in the gym is sometimes if they're extremely small. As far as, if I'm working with a guy who's, obviously in a much lighter weight class, I go to lock in on him, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, your neck, I can't quite get the same leverage I can on a guy who has a larger, thicker neck or my size, at least. But as far as when you're big, Hunt has probably a thicker neck than Carr does, I keep doing that, than Lewis does, and Oleinik was able to slap that on there.
Well, that'll be interesting. Also, the co-main event features one-time middleweight champ Chris Weidman returning, taking on Omari Akhmedov. The thing about Chris Weidman is interesting. You're talking about a guy who, had amassed a pretty big undefeated record, a guy who came in and, defeated Anderson Silva twice to take the championship, a guy with a whole lot of momentum. And now all of a sudden he looks up and he's 1-5 in his last 6 fights. Now I know all those fights, haven't been, we've talked, in fact, I guess the Yoel Romero fight, there's fights where he was doing really well. And then just something happened. He got caught. Dominic Reyes fight was, he pretty much got blown out early in that one, but the others was doing pretty well in. But man, that's a tough spot to find yourself in. 1-5 in your last 6 fights. What do you make of what's happened to Chris Weidman in the last couple of years with a string like that?
It's just hard to say because the fact that in a lot of the fights that he has losses in, he was looking good. He was doing the right things, and just he's in a heavy enough weight class where one mistake makes a difference. And I think that's what I think the easiest weight class to point that to is always the heavyweight division. I always try to explain to people hey, Stipe being consistent as far as stringing together title defenses is really difficult. When before him, you never had a guy defend the title for more than one, because of the fact that at that level that everybody's at and the power that people are able to generate, it's, it's kind of the equivalent of, someone who's batting 300. That's an impressive stat in professional baseball because, the endeavor is so difficult that you can only succeed 30% of the time. and people consider you good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And MMA fighting kind of is that way. When you get to a certain level, stringing together victories is not easy at the highest levels when guys are able to, there's so many ways you can lose in MMA, so when you look at a guy, there's sometimes you can break down and go, oh, look, you're fatiguing, so your training regimen, you might be overtraining or whatever the case, or this aspect of the game people have realized that you're not good at and you're not improving on, and they keep taking the fight there. There's some more simplistic ways that we can point out how guys can improve upon their performances. But sometimes, and I hate to say it because, it's just shit luck that the other guy did the right thing when you didn't, and, I think, the one big example of that is with the Romero fight. I had him winning almost the whole fight easily against Romero. Romero throws in one jumping knee while he goes to shoot a shot, and and fight's over with, just like that. And that's kind of been the situation with Weidman. Even in the fight with there was one with a bad stoppage with the guy who was over in Bellator now. I might drawing a blank on the name. Are
you talking about Machida?
No.
What that is fighter that's in Bellator now?
Gerard.
A Weidman fight.
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on.
It was in New York. It was really a bad stoppage.
Oh, hang on. Yes. I hate it when this happens. There's people shouting at their iPhones right now going, I don't know who it is. Okay, hang on. I'm looking it up. You're talking about Mousasi.
Yeah, Gerard Mousasi.
Yeah.
Gegard, thank you.
Yeah.
So, and that fight was another example of it's a loss and it's going to go down as a loss in the future, but, it kind of has an asterisk behind it. So, I still feel that, Weidman is still a very technical fighter. I think he still has everything going. I can't really point at something going, well, ever since this loss, he's lost his confidence here, or, there's an injury that's changed his style, or sometimes people have style drifts. You're trying to improve in the gym and maybe, you're working on something and you're getting away from your strengths. There's nothing really I can point out with Weidman to go, okay, this is where the problem is. To me, it's just that, you're fighting the highest level competition and some of the best guys in the world. And just, he's unlucky enough that he stacked together some of those losses in a row.
Well, that's the key. Best competition in the world. If you look at the string of losses, you're talking about killers. First of all, the Dominic Reyes fight was at light heavyweight. So,
he moved up for that one.
Yeah, you can take that however you want. But as far as these losses at middleweight, Jacare Souza, he defeated Kelvin Gastelum, submitted him. And then, like you said, the 3-fight skid was Gegard Mousasi, Yoel Romero, and Luke Rockhold. As 3-fight skids go, especially how he was performing in those fights, I think if anything, it just shows you the parity of competition at a top level of MMA. It's what makes sport great. Any night, one twist, one turn either direction can alter the outcome.
That's why I think actually this fight is going to be very important, because this one's going to be kind of stressful because he's not going to have this guy was top 5. And it's like, well, now you're fighting a guy I don't think that's, even is ranked at the moment. And so pulling out a loss here could be now the conversation gets scary. Yeah,
this is the one where we get back on track. That's got to be, for sure. Very nice. Well, what about, Bellator is back too, and they've got Vincent Henderson and Michael Chandler this weekend. And, with Chandler, he could possibly, I guess the UFC would have to back up the money truck to pay him because he's not going to want to fight for nothing. But, Michael Chandler is one of those guys, and there's only a few on that list in the modern era of MMA who have really excelled outside the world of the UFC. There's him, there's Fedor, maybe just one or two others, guys that you'll always look back on and go, boy, what would have happened if they'd have been in the UFC? But Chandler may still have time. He could finish out, if he wanted to take another couple of fights, he could finish out in the UFC. You think there'd what do you think about that prospect? Or you think his legacy is better left just asking questions like what if, and knowing that, he's, maybe the greatest Bellator franchise fighter of all time?
Yeah, I think he's probably just going to do that. I think it makes more sense at this point. He's established himself in Bellator. He has a name recognition outside of, moving forward in other aspects of his career. As far as, wanting to jump into the fray at the UFC, that's a deep pool to try to wade through and have to start over with. It's kind of like being the top guy in your company. And now let's go over here. We're going to start you over at this company. Unless they're going to give him an opportunity to come directly over and fight for a title. Or, I don't see that ever being, if I was managing him, I'd be like, look, unless it's a title shot opportunity to go in there and jump right into the deep end. We go back to that conversation again, that it's very difficult to string together wins against the top level competition. And now, if anything, that's one hell of a gauntlet to run. And with putting at risk the opportunity to go, well, everything you've accomplished in Bellator then would probably be negated.
Yeah. So the XFN fights are tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what did you say about going to Washington?
Yeah, we go up to Washington about once a year in August. Uncle Eddie has property up there, and now we do too.
Mm-hmm.
So we go up there, go camping for the week.
Okay. What are you camping in?
A trailer.
Okay. Is it do you rent one, or is it already there?
Uncle Eddie has a trailer because he also has a cabin built on his property.
Oh, okay.
So, and he has already, he's been there for almost 15 years as far as building on the property. So he has a well and electricity for hookups. So it's, it's not like we're dry camping. Everything's hooked up, and it's, and then he has a large shed that was the first structure he had built on the property that has, hookups for the washer and dryer. And so, I mean, we're camping as far as, you're out next to the national park, you're in the middle of the woods, which is great. But there's a small town named Morton that's a 10-minute drive south of us. That makes life super easy to go to the store. There's a really nice hospital there, in case the kids get too crazy. But while we're on the property, there's no cell service. So you do get the experience of just being with family for a week. And, we hang out, and Bella is my avid fisher because there's a Tillicum River that goes through our property. And so she fishes every morning, and then we end up shooting 22s against targets and archery, and just, go for hikes and hang out.
Mm. Would you ever want to own a trailer?
Yeah, actually. Yep. Years past, I had bought a boat thinking that was going to be the great investment. That was a very bad idea.
That's what I hear. I've always heard the old joke that when you own a boat, the best 2 days of owning it are the day you buy it and the day you sell it.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
I realized that I was like, it'd be a lot cheaper if that whenever we decided we wanted to go boating, I can go give someone $2,000 and be like, hey, take me and my family with you.
Yeah.
For the day. And I would be still well ahead at the end of the year on what I was paying for just the slip and everything else. And so, and boat maintenance. But owning an RV, I think would be awesome just because, that's actually probably one of the next big purchases. If we, again, my wife, were talking about that because we've been putting a lot of our energy towards the property up that we just purchased. And now it's like, okay, well, we're getting a well dug. And now that we have that done, getting taken care of and getting the electricity put up there, getting an RV would be a great idea because, we'll be able to camp on our own property with hookups and at the same time, travel to other places. Because I've rented them before, and quite enjoyable experience. I like it.
Have I told you about my goal of owning a vintage trailer?
No, but it sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are these trailers that were made like in the 50s and the 60s.
Like silver little bubble things.
Yeah. So there's Airstreams. That's a company name. But there's some other ones like Shasta. And sometimes they're referred to as canned ham trailers because they look like an old canned ham, right? And they're small, not big enough for a family, but I don't have the kids or anything. So Jennifer and I have. What happened was years back we were in Lake Tahoe, and somebody was doing like a giveaway. It was like a raffle, they're giving away a trailer and like a vintage station wagon with it or something. And they had it on display, and we just walked in just to see, let's check this out, what it's like. And it was so cool. Like, of course, this one was fully restored, totally classic. It's like a classic car. But back then, all the paneling is real wood, and there's a gas, propane stove and, vintage like Frigidaire refrigerator. I mean, it looks like you walked into the 1950s or something, So I started researching these things, and you can find them fully restored for 10 grand, something like that. But they're there, and there's a whole little community of them. It's like when people have hot rod shows or something like that, where people restore these things. So I really want one, but I also know that that's something that's going to require a lot of research. And so I'm already just starting to think about it. And, hopefully by the time I get to be retirement age or something like that, might be. So I don't know, maybe we can hitch up our little canned ham trailer and be, driving along behind your supersized RV or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think those would be fun to have. There's actually, when you and I went to Bisbee, the one thing I wish we'd have done this, because when we went down there to visit Doug Stanhope, we stayed in one of his houses, but we actually stayed at Morgan Murphy's house, the few doors down. But they had that vintage trailer park called the Shady Dell, and it was made up of nothing but these vintage trailers. And Jennifer and I went and stayed a night there, and it was so cool. Speaking of boats, they had like an old yacht. It was like the SS Minnow from Gilligan's Island, that we stayed on. There's a couple of places like that around the country. So you would have enjoyed that, I think. Yeah. Because they showed old movies, and they had like an old radio station that you could only pick up in the trailer park that played like old music and stuff. It really was like stepping back in time. So anyway, well, we'll get into some more trailer talk at some point on a future episode of phone booth fighting in the years to come. I'm sure we'll get some content out of that. All right, Frank, I'm going to let you wrap this one. You got some fights to call. I got to get to work myself. So we'll remind everybody once again about subscribing to the YouTube channel. If you're watching this, then that's where you're seeing us. But like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Phone Booth Fighting, if you haven't already. And then our Patreon page, patreon.com/Phone Booth Fighting. Frank and I are going to get some watch-alongs up there and some other things. There's some incentives to join. And as I said at the beginning of the show, because of a current little misunderstanding we're having with Amazon, that along with merchandise purchases is probably the best way to support the show. And if you want to check out the merch, you can do that at Phone Booth Fighting, phoneboothfighting.com. Also, Frank, you've got a couple of banners up there for some products that you might want to mention.
Yeah, American Shaman CBD is a company that I really enjoy and use, and great products, guys. And if you're interested in anything with kratom and stuff, check out metrospeck.com.
That's it. You can find all that at phoneboothfighting.com. So for Frank Mir, I'm Richard Hunter, and we'll see you right back here next time on Phone Booth Fight.